Getting a fresh, home-cooked dinner on the table is one of those daily jobs that quietly eats an hour out of every evening. You decide what to make, you shop, you stand over the stove watching it so nothing burns, and then you clean the whole thing up. But one company thinks it can take the hardest part of that off your hands. Posha, an American startup founded by Raghav Gupta, builds a countertop robot about the size of a large microwave that cooks the meal itself. You load it with chopped ingredients and pick a recipe on the screen. A camera mounted up top watches the food as it goes, dispensing, stirring, and adjusting the heat the way a person would. The founder calls it a coffee machine for food. If it works as promised, it turns a nightly hour at the stove into 10 minutes of prep and a meal that cooks while you do something else. We are going to get into how a camera actually cooks dinner, the robot chef pitch behind it, and the honest catch that the marketing tends to skip over. The pull toward outsourcing dinner is easy to see in what Americans already spend. The average household orders delivery around 4 times a month, at roughly $35 an order, and that convenience runs close to 80% more than picking the same meal up yourself. Add restaurant dining on top, and food away from home now eats up a bigger slice of the budget than groceries do. So the appeal is not really about cooking, it is about time, and the steady bleed of money that comes from not having any. That is the gap Posha is built for. The company was founded in 2017 by Raghav Gupta and Rohin Malhotra, who started out trying to build a robotic arm that could cook home-style Indian food. Early testing in Bosch's startup accelerator told them people did not want a machine swinging around their kitchen, so they scrapped the arm and built a sealed box instead. Gupta later moved the company to the San Francisco Bay Area to sit closer to its customers. In 2025, the firm rebranded from Nimble to Posha and raised an $8 million round led by Excel. What they ended up with sits on your counter and fits under a standard cabinet. Inside are 4 ingredient hoppers, a spice carousel, oil and water reservoirs, and a detachable pan with a stirring paddle, all heated by an induction element underneath. The part that makes it more than a fancy slow cooker is the camera. A high-resolution lens sits over the pan and feeds what it sees to vision models running on the machine. Rather than following a fixed timer, the software watches the food and reacts to it. It can tell when onions have turned translucent, when a sauce has reduced to the right thickness, or when the pan is running dry and needs a splash of water. Based on what it sees, the machine adjusts. It turns the heat up or down, changes the stirring speed, and drops the next ingredient in when the moment is right. Because it is reading the food and not a clock, it forgives a lot. You can be loose with your quantities, swap one vegetable for another, and it still tends to work. To run a meal, you pick a dish from a library of more than 1,000 recipes, chop and load the ingredients it asks for, and press start. From there, it dispenses, stirs, and cooks on its own. You can watch the whole thing from your phone, and it pings you when dinner is done. One session serves 4 to 5 people, which is enough for a family dinner, and the recipes span Indian curries, Italian pasta, Thai stir-fries, and plenty in between. It lands at around $1,500. With an optional membership at $15 a month that unlocks the full recipe range and meal planning. Cooking still works without it, but the subscription is where the library and the new features live. Posha's own pitch is that it cuts everyday kitchen time by about 70%, turning an hour at the stove into 10 to 20 minutes of effort. That figure comes from the company rather than from independent testing. The obvious thing to put it next to is the Thermomix, the European all-in-one that sells around 1 million units a year, and the comparison the founder reaches for himself. A Thermomix is brilliant at blending, weighing, and holding a precise temperature, but it runs on a guided model. It buzzes, you add the next ingredient, it buzzes again, and you stay in the kitchen for the whole cook. Posha is trying to remove that tether. Once the hoppers are loaded, it adds the ingredients itself, so you are not standing by waiting for the next prompt. Against a smart oven like the Suvie or the discontinued June, the difference is the pan. Those machines bake, steam, and broil on a tray, and some can chill ingredients until a cook starts. What they cannot do is stir and saute a one-pot dish on a live burner, which is exactly the lane Posha sits in. That focus is also its ceiling. It does curries, risottos, stir-fries, and pasta well, but it is not roasting a chicken or baking a tray of cookies. Then there is the cheapest option of all, which is simply cooking the thing yourself with a pan you already own. That costs nothing up front and handles any dish you like, but it demands your full attention and your patience every single night. What Posha is selling is not better food than a careful home cook can make. It is the same food without the hour of standing over it. Run the money out, and the case rests on substitution. A household leaning on delivery 4 nights a week can spend well over $100 a week on the convenience markup alone. Shift those meals to groceries the robot cooks, and the savings can cover the price of the machine within a few months of steady use. That math only works if you are spending on takeout in the first place. Part of why this is surfacing now is simply cost. Food away from home keeps climbing, rising faster than grocery prices, and households are feeling it. A single delivery order can carry a markup of nearly 80% over the same meal picked up in person. Anything that pulls those meals back home starts to look less like a gadget and more like a budget decision. The other shift is the technology finally being good enough to trust with a hot pan. Reading a bubbling sauce by color and texture, then reacting fast enough to stop it catching, is the kind of real-time vision task that was clumsy and unreliable a decade ago. Cheaper cameras and on-device models have made it viable, which is the same reason a wave of vision-guided cooking gear is arriving at once, rather than this one machine appearing alone. And there is a labor angle underneath it all. A private chef is something almost no household can justify, and the people most squeezed for time are often the ones who can least spare an evening hour. Automating the active part of cooking, rather than hiring it out, is the only version of that idea that scales past the wealthy. For all the polish, the pitch has a catch, the marketing tends to glide past. The robot cooks, but it does not shop, and it does not chop. You still have to plan the meal, buy the ingredients, wash them, peel them, and cut them to size before anything goes in. For a lot of people, that prep is the part they dislike most, and Posha hands it right back to them. Cleanup is the same story. The pan and the hoppers are dishwasher safe, but you are still wiping down the machine and the counter around it after every cook. So the honest framing is that it takes the easy, hands-off middle of cooking and automates that, while leaving you the shopping at one end and the scrubbing at the other. That is why it fits best with people who already cook a few times a week and want the load lightened, not people hoping to never touch a kitchen again. Solving that fully would mean tying the app to grocery delivery for pre-chopped ingredient kits and a fully self-cleaning chamber, neither of which exists yet. History is also unkind to this category, and it is worth being clear-eyed about it. Juicero raised around $120 million for a $700 press before the world noticed you could squeeze its packs by hand, and it folded inside 2 years. The bigger warning is what happens after a sale. June built a beloved camera oven, sold to Weber for $142 million, and watched the brand quietly wound down. Brava did much the same under Middleby and was discontinued in 2026. When a cloud-dependent appliance loses its parent, owners can be left with an expensive brick. For Posha to avoid that, the hardware has to earn its keep on its own and keep working even if the servers go dark. The momentum, though, is real. By early 2026, Posha had moved past its test phase into more than 200 homes, with a waitlist running past 1,000. In that earlier phase, 50 Bay Area families cooked more than 22,000 meals on the machines. The Series A is funding a manufacturing ramp to clear that backlog, and the company has been roughly tripling its output every 6 months. The harder limit right now is geography. Posha is only fulfilling orders in a handful of US states, so for most people, the honest answer is that you are on a waitlist, not a checkout page. That gap should close as the company stabilizes its supply chain and builds out the local service teams that repairs and support demand. Where it goes next is the more interesting part. The near-term roadmap leans on letting people suggest a dish and having generative AI turn it into instructions the machine can follow, which would loosen the recipe library as a constraint. The longer bet is to stop being a thing you buy and become a thing that comes with the apartment, built into new kitchens the way a dishwasher is today. If that happens, the prep problem gets solved at the building level, with grocery partners delivering the chopped kits straight to the door. What Posha is really chasing is the private chef, an idea that has always been walled off behind real money and bringing it down to the price of a good dishwasher. The catch is that it automates the calm middle of cooking and leaves you the shopping and the scrubbing, so it lightens the evening rather than erasing it. Whether that trade is worth $1,500 depends entirely on what your time at the stove is currently costing you. Takeout prices keep climbing. On-device vision is finally good enough to trust, and the first machines are already cooking in real kitchens. The idea of a robot handling dinner has stopped sounding like a gimmick. If watching a camera cook a curry leaves you curious about where the kitchen heads next, Follow along. We will keep breaking down the tech quietly, reshaping the home.